All right. On the agenda, item number one, ordinance 14, the $700,000 letter of credit agreement, for Pleasant Ridge. Talked about this last finance committee meeting. Any new issues there? Any concerns from the?
Pretty much housekeeping.
Yep. All right, item number two, appropriation of $5,520, for the DA's program to work with the city of Erie. Okay. All right, item number three, 2024 general fund budget supplemental appropriation of $50,000 for shared costs between the planning department and the county GIS office. So when we have somebody from the admin speak to that.
That's, yeah, we just have money coming over from planning. It just needs transferred over. I think it was, maybe missed or something. No, not missed. But what we want to do is use that money for our consolidated Esri billing. It'll save costs. And it allows us to do more advanced workflows with their software. So Esri has a bunch of different modules. Currently, we have different departments paying for different modules. And as we consolidate, we'll be able to use the modules as one instead of paying another cost. And what that consolidation is going to allow is a more advanced workflow, which will save us money on our Eagle View invoice. We can do our own building footprints. We could do a lot of stuff that we're paying Eagle View to do because we're not consolidated. So, by combining the modules and letting everyone use them, we'll actually optimize our investment and show a return on investment. That's what we're looking to do with this.
Do you have any numbers on how many departments have these, has this software for X amount of dollars? Like, you said we're saving money, and I see we got a quote here for this 29,708 or 703, any glasses. Do we have any idea like what this is actually saying?
We can go back, is that what
Well, we're combining GIS software under multiple departments into a single license. So the idea being that we're saving money. Do we have any of those figures to show that money we're being saved?
We won't be able to show them until the next year. So when we consolidate, that's when we'll be able to initiate the savings. Because the way it works now is public safety pays for the software at a different time than tax assessment, at a different time than planning. So right now I'm trying to get everything on this month. And then after that, we'll be able to start to show the savings. And that comes with the advanced workflows. So right now, certain people in different departments cannot use all the modules because they're only
They're siloed off.
correct. If that helps you.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
just a suggestion, maybe, you could run, we could have Doug or finance run some numbers for you to try to at least give you an estimate
Three
of
of
what that savings might be.
I just think if we're saving money, we got a success story to tell it, show the amount.
Can we do that, Sheldon?
Yeah, I can definitely.
Thank you.
Um,
And
We're talking 3 departments right now.
even if it's a guess, there's something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, so the software all in is 29,700.
41,000. Public safeties won't roll in until next October,
Gotcha.
which I'm working with the Esri rep to, give us a few extra months to get to February or March, because right now I want to roll into planning and tax assessment and public safety, and everyone's different. So if we start now, it'll be more savings for later. building footprints, roughly $50,000 for Eagle View is what we pay. We'll be able to do that in-house this year. And there's other workflows that will add to the cost savings, so Eagle View is gonna take a hit. Cause I looked at what we pay and I know what we can do with the software. It's just we haven't been able to do it because of the way GIS works, it's a growth, it's evolution. It's just where we are right now. Every county goes through this, everyone goes through this. You know, the people know how to use it. Now we have people in place to use everything and combine everything. So, you know, we're in the phase of, we're gonna grow this out, start saving money by consolidation.
Any questions?
Yes, I do. Where's this money being transferred? And what was your office original budget?
I believe, it's absolutely coming from them. And it was originally available to the GIS department based on what we do for each department. And it just wasn't allocated properly.
Colin, can you see what the GIS department was budgeted for?
Yeah.
Because if it's whatever that budget is, and wherever that transfer is coming from, it cannot exceed 10% of the budget, so. Under the whole little charter. So we want to make sure.
This isn't really a transfer. This is a reimbursement for things that they're going to do.
And I'm going on what he said.
Yeah.
It was a transfer from planning, so. Yes, ma'am.
I spoke with Director Moran earlier this week about something else and asked her a little bit about this. She said they actually took this money out of their budget. It just didn't get put into the budget, but they budgeted it out of a line, so they have it sitting there.
Took it out of what?
Her planning budget out of one of the grant lines or something, just did it.
They took this money, the money that we're talking about now, out of planning
Yes,
and put it into that GIS department.
yes,
Which
but it
wasn't-
didn't get put into the budget last year to show the 50,000. But they had marked it out of their budget.
If
That was
it
what she
didn't,
did.
if it didn't get put in the budget, if we don't have it put in the budget,
She had it allocated internally, it just wasn't reflected in the budget.
Right.
Correct. That's
We didn't, at that point in time, we weren't sure exactly how much money they were going to need to spend and all the things they were going to do. Because we were still in the infancy of putting the GIS department into the budget.
okay.
Is the travel portion of the expenses shown, is that affiliated with the software in any way?
I could break it out for you, for sure.
If I may finish,
Yes.
excuse me. Yeah, because under the home rule charter, and I'm not trying to be a stickler or anything. But it says any changes in the budget, it kicks in some stuff. And that's why I'm inquiring, because whether they omitted it by default or accident or whatever that budget is, it cannot exceed, that transfer cannot exceed 10%. And that's by law. So we've had a couple other things come down already that, you know, we left this out or we forgot this out, but the reality of it is we adopted a budget. So maybe it's something internal, but I think before we start doing stuff, we should at least know what we're doing. And I'm not clear. I mean, I'm clear on the narrative. She intended for somebody to go there, but she didn't put it there. It was in here, her stuff. And if it approved, and if that budget went forward that way, then all of that other stuff would be immaterial. In legality, common sense says you guys need the money to do it. But as we're learning, process matters. Many people don't think it does, but it absolutely does. So my recommendation to this body would be to find out what we're doing based on the budget that we put forward. And do we have to, does it exceed the 10%? And if so, what actions can we take? Ultimately, we want them to be successful, but not at the expense of, changing laws and setting precedent. And I'm just one vote.
Yes.
Doug, you know what, and, what Andre's talking about. Yeah, so there's a 10% limit on transfers between departments. Or if you transfer from one department to another, as is the case here, you'd have to get county council approval. The other way, you would not have to. In other words, you could transfer 10% of the budget between budgets within the same department. But if you're transferring it 10% between departments, you need council approval. But I suppose this is in front of council for its approval. So if 50% represents 10% of the budget, and it probably does, it's probably a lot less. The budget's probably a lot more than that. Do you have any idea?
Your total budget.
I'll look it up in 1 second.
Colin, what do you have?
So looking at the 2024 admin proposed budget, as of this item line is 044171. It's currently on the admin proposed budget that we passed back in October, or back in December. It's budgeted as $1,000. So, and it's not reflected anywhere in that budget that we passed.
That's for the GIS.
That's for the planning interest band of the GIS.
Okay, and so can we reconcile that 50K with planning is saying that the money's there? Cause I'm imagining that $1,000 may have been just to keep the line item open.
I think.
Paul,
It was,
what do you think?
because at that point in time, we didn't know what money he was gonna spend or what they would need.
I mean, we're gonna get you there. We
Yeah.
just gotta,
I
piece of
want it
cake
right
or-
by the book.
So I should say, yeah, the planning department.
Yes, the planning budget, $20 million. Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter the amount, it just matters that if you're transferring from department to department, you need council.
Yes, and that's why
And we're just looking for, to make, because they may have line items it for planning and it didn't happen as they stated.
Any other thoughts from anyone?
Listen, we don't have to get hung up over it. We don't really have to get hung up over it. Colin can look, we can look at those numbers before Tuesday or whatever. I don't see it. I can support it, but I don't see that.
Oh, he was pulling up some numbers. I'll tell you
I'm just running some, I'm just doing some math.
that. Double checking it. It's a first reading.
Yeah, that stuff.
Let's get some more information, talk about the next finance meeting. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, item number 4, approval of waiver of the bid requirements in the purchasing code, and approval of the sole vendor contract between Erie County and Dominion Voting. Karen Harris, yes.
This should be amended, there is no waiver of a bid requirement here, this is just a bill. So we already have it. Is it a 10-year contract?
I think we have a few more, till 2019. The Dominion
Yeah,
contract.
so we already have a long contract that council has already approved with Dominion. This is just a bill for the current services rendered. So we really aren't waiving any code, we're just approving the payment of the bill.
Are you suggesting that we would amend in meeting
No,
or?
we could just
Pull
change
it
it right
and-
now. No, just eliminate the words, approval of waiver of bid requirements. Just say approval of sole vendor Hmm. It should actually be changed to approval of,
Karen, does
You know,
the bill have
actually-
a,
actually, since it's county's budget, we really don't even have to. Council already budgeted for this. Payment. So you really don't even
That's big.
need,
Yeah, this will be paid with the election integrity grant. We two scanners for scanning the ballots. So just eliminate.
yeah, we could just eliminate this, because council already approved this in the budget.
all right, do we need to take a vote on polling or just general consensus?
No, just
No, let's just pull it.
Yeah, the poll. Any other, you guys concur with that? We'll make sure it's majority that agrees with that. Okay, moving on to the item number 5. Approval of waiver of bid requirements under the purchasing code and approval of sole vendor contract with Erie County and SOE Software Corporation.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
this is actually a resolution that should go before the county election board. And I believe the council has already approved in the election board's budget the purchase for this contract. So it first has to go in front of the election board to say, yeah, we approve the agreement with this, and then council would actually, if it's in the budget. the election
We
board
have,
did or not.
we do have money for that in our election.
And actually, we have an election board meeting prior to Tuesday's
Right.
meeting to do just that.
Okay,
I guess the part that I'm not sure about is, yes, it would have to be approved by the election board, but wouldn't we also have to approve the bid requirement waiver, given the dollar amount of the contract?
yes, unless there's a good if there's a good reason to waive it, then fine. See,
All this is.
the election board is recommending to county council the waiver of the code and the payment of the contract.
Yeah.
And then council approves the recommendation of the election board.
Right.
Many, just like the administration comes up and submits things for approval of council, the election board is in the same position. So this doesn't, this is premature on this,
Premature because we haven't approved this election.
correct.
Yes, and we're moving rapidly. I forgot what the deadline is for us to exhaust the election integrity grant fund, but yeah, we're trying to put some stuff in place. We've already approved to accept the money. So now we have to June to spend it.
So it's very possible that that the election board could, or that the staff could publish notice tomorrow of the meeting of an election board next Tuesday before council's meeting. And put that on the budget then, so the council would meet as the election board, approve it, recommend it to the council, and then council at the very next meeting. If we needed to expedite it.
We're all saying, I think we're saying the same thing because we advertised it already and so if there's some other terminology or another agenda item or that has to be adjusted before they can certainly do that. But we're trying to take those steps because we do want to expedite. So we're scheduled before our caucus meeting for the election.
Yes.
So it's already rescheduled. I talked with Karen and Megan earlier this week, I think, or maybe last week about this.
So is the concern that the ball is kind of already up in the air prior to the approval by the election board, or is it okay that this is still out there? Because be a resolution by election board passed in one vote,
Yeah, this is,
if we choose.
Yeah. Yeah, this would still be here. We could still put this on the agenda leave it on the agenda, I should say. But instead of approval of waiver of the bid, it would be approval of the recommendation of the Board of Elections to waive. So we'd only be changing the length.
Okay, which we could do by another.
Oh, no, that we could do now. We could simply change it now,
Why don't we do that?
Okay.
and then it'll go out tomorrow advertised. Within the more than 72 hours.
Everybody okay with that change?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So Tom, Karen, yeah, Tom, to give you that language if you stop it.
Got it, thank you.
Number 6. Repeal of resolution number 36, 2023, rescission of the agreement between the County of Erie and Galen University. Assuming we have a few people to speak on that.
Nobody else?
No, Susan,
I'll say something. We all got the emails about it from the solicitors. The Erie County Council doesn't have the authority to do this. We don't have authority to enter into a contract or to break a contract. So I don't know, is this just for show or regardless of how the vote goes, it's not the anything.
Are you able,
I'm sorry.
Well, our emails showed that Erie County Council does not have the authority to do this. We don't have the authority to enter into contracts or break contracts. So I don't know what this would do, regardless of how the vote goes. If it's something we aren't allowed to do, then is it just for show or?
Well, that's just one lawyer's opinion. It's not my opinion.
What is your opinion?
My opinion is that council has the right to repeal any ordinance or resolution that came before it. Now, as I told council before, as far as last year and going into this year, council cannot break a contract without being liable. So those are two different issues then. If council were to vote on this and it passed, then assuming that it's veto proof, or assuming it goes that far, then council would be, or Erie County would be in breach of contract. And Gannon would be in a position to sue Erie County if it wanted to. However, as far as council's authority to repeal by ordinance, any previous ordinance or resolution, they have that authority completely.
Even though it affects the contract.
Yeah,
So
even though
it's
it's-
just the second step that we'd be liable.
Right. That's right.
And is there any conversation from the administration on this?
Well, we would just say that we stand by Solicitor Spiro's opinion that this is not a matter. We feel that a brand new council can go back in history and eliminate a contract that was made and voted on by previous council. We believe it sets a terrible precedent. In another way, that a council could break contracts across the county with all types of other providers in all types of other areas. I feel that this is a mistake. We wish you would not do this. Of course, we know that you've been pressured greatly by those who oppose Project Neptune. We support Project Neptune 100%. 4% of library space is not going to kill the library as it's been suggested. We feel it is a 100% going to help the future of the library. We stand by that. And
Is that a guarantee? What's to stop? Everything's been done under the cloak of darkness. that ruling you're talking about from Attorney Spiros, he didn't send it to anybody, at least I didn't get it.
So several hours.
But
after
you
the-
received it from,
I received it from the news media.
from this gentleman right here.
I received it from the news media first.
Okay,
We were kept out of it again. Just like all the other 400 right to knows. And the thing, all the conversations that took place. If we would have waited to after November. To bring this up, it would not have passed. And if we have a right to bring it up and rescind, I don't see if there's anything. Don't be afraid, because we can all count, you've been in this business long enough. There's 4 votes and probably rescind.
we're not afraid.
We don't have 5
Mr.
votes.
Chairman.
Oh, some of the stuff I received, it sounds like you're afraid, and some of the stuff I heard. But, I listened to our citizens,
I mean, we believe it's a fool's errand, but
call me a fool, whatever you want, I can live with that. I'm a big boy, you know that. That doesn't bother me.
I will say, Mr. Scatella, that your name is on the top of the list on the email.
Right,
So
the
maybe you
point,
missed
the
it.
point was it
From
was sent to
from
the
Mr.
media
Carroll? Yes,
early.
I know that, but that was given to me from the news media before Mr. Carroll.
I will also point out that you all have put legislation on your agenda. You've not checked with us on it. You don't ask our opinion on it. We do not receive it in advance. So I mean, to hold us to some other standard hardly seems fair.
The opinions of all the council members don't always even get asked, so I think that's same. I mean, the committees that were chosen before to do investigations, I mean, the first time I heard about it was from the media, so it goes both ways if that's the case. There's things that are done that,
You got the names of who was on those committees?
no, I'm saying just the notice that there was going to be investigatory committees. I didn't know about it until it came out from the meeting.
Like it was mentioned about finance or personnel.
I didn't hear anything about it until I saw it.
And the source of the news story was my email to council. So, I mean, that's a slightly different situation where you received the communication.
The same time the news media did.
And in this case, the news media received it several hours before we did. Those are two different things. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying, I don't
I,
think it's right.
I understand the criticism, and I hear you, I just, those are slightly different events. You know, I guess what I'm a little bit curious on this, topic is when the county enters into a contract, it is by the approval of county council, is that right? Well,
Yes.
so my reading of the solicitor for the administration's opinion is that we don't even have that authority. Is the way I would read that email, that the executive has the sole authority to approve contracts. That doesn't sound right to me.
I don't know if his opinion was saying that certainly the executive has exclusive authority to sign contracts, and to execute contracts. And sometimes act against contracts. But certainly, that right does not trump council's right to repeal or revisit any previous ordinance or resolution that have now changed its mind about. And you have that authority even written in the administrative code, whereby council people could revisit every 6 months. So long as they voted in the majority opinion 6 months previously, to reconsider and change an ordinance and bring it back. So it's not like this is that council's doing something that has never been done before. I've been here and have seen it do it many times before. If you read the Home Rule Charter, it literally says council has the right to repeal ordinance. Now, I think what we're talking about here, or we're asking, well, doesn't such an action, such as a breach of contract, suggest bad faith in county government? And what effect might that have on future third-party vendors who may want to do business with the county? And that's a legitimate thing that I'm sure all the council persons have considered, but have decided that the underlying problem with this particular resolution is more important to council, to those, to the public citizens who want, like the library, and to the idea that county government is not a real estate agent. They don't involve themselves in real estate. They don't rent real estate. They don't sell real estate. They're not in the economic business. And that this is a turn in the wrong direction. So there are competing issues on either side as to whether to do this. And it's not a simple decision for council to make one way or the other. But certainly council has the authority.
I believe county has rented county property before. And there hasn't been issues with that in the past. My next question is if this goes through and it is rescinded, at what price is the county willing to pay of taxpayers' money in a lawsuit? Because there's a lot of people out there that still, they believe this is a good partnership and it will help the library in the long run.
To answer your question, if Gannon were to file suit, they have a choice of asking the court for equitable relief to enjoin the law that council passed from taking effect and ordering the lease to continue. They also have the right to it's called their bargain damages, which would mean comparing the value, the fair rental value of the real estate that Gannon has rented from the county with the fair rental value of the real estate it would eventually have to rent from some other place or some other title or some other person. And the difference between those amounts would be their financial rent.
And
So-
just to reiterate, it's not against the project, it's the lease. I have not heard one bad word about the project from anywhere in this community. Everybody's for the project. It's a great project. And I stand behind it 100%. I'm bothered by the lease. What's to stop? And I don't want to pick on Gannon. I've had a couple of nice meetings with the president and Doug sitting back there. 2 years from now, Gannon comes in and needs 1,000 more square feet. Or another business, since we're in the leasing business, comes in and wants 2,000 square feet to do something. How do we deny it? There's no safeguards. We don't even have the safeguard from Gannon other than the word of the president. And I believe him. But things change. Things have changed in 2 years on this council. The president of Gannon could leave in 2 years and a new president comes in and wants more footage. How do we protect?
That would
Erie County
require-
then?
They
That
can't-
require us to do it again, right?
Right.
To extend the lease or modify the lease for.
But how do you stop anybody out there that wants to put another business in Glasgow?
It can't be done without county council's.
I understand that, but in 2 years, if I wanted to sell
Jerry's worried.
2,000 square feet, I can make sure I'd find candidates that think like me and go out and work for me, and we change council. You know, it takes council, but
You know, I had one conversation with a gentleman that I respect very highly that was in favor of rather the lease continuing. And he said something really interesting to me. He said, you know, over the last 1,000 years, libraries have existed and they're very different than they, you know, were in Alexandria versus today. And that, you know, what we know to be the modern American library is not what it's always been, and maybe not what it always should be, and that we need to have an opportunity for libraries to grow. And you saw this project as a way of helping continue that growth. in my mind, this is primarily about property rights. The idea that what was once a public space, fully usable by the public or the public servants' offices for doing that work. And segregating that, separating out utilities, making that a rental space. And what bothers me about it is just like some of these homes on Sixth Street that are, were once grand, big homes that have been subdivided in all these apartments, they never go back. Those spaces never get reintegrated into the original space they had. It costs more money to reintegrate it than it does to rent it out to another tenant. And I guess that's what kind of bothers me. Dr. I'm just gonna say Walter, because I'm not very good with the last name. Ask for his forgiveness, please. When Walter and I were talking about this, I says, this would actually be a great thing if it wasn't a lease. If it was just a true public-private partnership, not a separated utility, not a segregated space, but just a partnership program. I mean, you can put some rules around that about, term and stuff, but in terms of property and property ownership, for the long stake, I would want that to be retained by Blasco. And Walter said, you would give me that space for free? And I thought, and believe it or not, I said, yes. I would much prefer it, because to me, if they're bringing value to the library, if they're a true partner in program, just like with the Idea Lab. My understanding is that Gannon had a lot of involvement in bringing that to fruition. And Gannon doesn't own that space, but they're a partner in the programming. And that, to me, I've been trying to find and thread that compromise position. What is it that keeps Gannon whole, keeps people whole and concerned in the community in terms of, what the NOAA Science Fair and the programming and displays. We have displays already. We could just have more displays, and if we're gonna, hold that vision of having a child come into the library and see a STEM display and say, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about, learning STEM fields, that's a good thing. But it's the idea that there's a personal, private ownership of the space. And that in some hours, a research space is not accessible to anyone but the researchers. That's where people get a little hung up. They're like, oh, hold on a second. I mean, if this was a partnership of programming, like actual, a compromised position, I guess that's what's frustrating to me is why is everyone so steadfast in this position that we have to move forward with this? Why isn't there a give and a take? And so if I'm a vote to rescind, that's why. I think that there's a lot of spaces. I know that spaces have been looked at. Some pretty cool ones too. And anyways, that says my piece.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I just have a question for Tom. You were saying that financial costs to the county would be the fair market net value of the current lease agreement, of the current space being leased to the library.
Fair rental.
Fair rental value. So even though that we have rented underneath the square footage or the rental value, which I think we've rented at $7 per square foot, we would still be held liable to the actual rental market value regardless, even though we've rented under fair market value.
Well, that's a good question, but, because we're assuming, and to the follow-up, Rock's point too, we're assuming that there's sufficient consideration flowing in this contract between the county and Gannon. Because the $7 per square foot really was brought together or calculated by arriving at the cost of maintenance. And we understand that after meeting with Dr. Ivanenko, that the $7 per square foot would be the cost of Gannon to maintain that facility, maintain the 3,200 square feet. So those are costs that would be borne by any lessee. So the question then arises, Well, what is Gannon paying for the lease? Nothing? And if they're paying nothing, then there's no consideration. To back the contract and, call it a legal contract in the first place. So that's questionable. The breach of contract damages would be based on $7 per square foot. Let's say Gannon finds a place, but they have to pay $15 a square foot. So the difference, so the damages, they would argue, would be $8 per square foot times 3,200 square feet. That would be roughly their damages plus any other expenses. But that is interesting because the $7 is clearly way under the fair rental value of that property. And I believe only represents the cost of maintenance.
You can always take it out of the 1.5 million that we gave them, American Rescue Plan. They're gonna pay us rent out of our own money. I say that I agree with Chairman Sittel. In that I haven't heard anyone say that they weren't against it. No one likes how we got here. I don't think the deal was done in good faith, as evidenced by some of the right to know letters that are really kind of funny. Sad at the same time. So I don't believe that it was negotiated in good faith. I don't care if Gannon sues us or not. I think the citizens deserve more. Not only from us, but they deserve more from Gannon. I believe that upward around 45–48% of my district is tax exempt. Gannon's footprint is growing larger and larger, as is UPMC's. I think that Gannon has done great work, been a great partner on the far end of the district in the county of our West Bay front. I think it's about, can't put a figure on that. But I just think that they're dead wrong on this. I don't think that the good Catholic Christian principles, minding that we're not all perfect. But I don't think those principles were in play at all. And if those are the principles that are in play. Oh man, that's probably why I'm not Catholic. Oops.
Chris, I know you're on Zoom. I don't want you to feel left out. If you had anything to add, otherwise I'll keep moving.
I don't feel left out at all. My position is still what it was. I think, the lease is my problem. This was done behind closed doors. It was done in bad faith. It doesn't change, my vote, any threat of this, especially in the way that, I received several phone calls in support of the lease from people that I don't even think they really wanted to call me. It felt like they were put up to call me. So I'm not going to be bullied. I'm not going to be put in a corner here. I'm going to stand up for the people that put me in this position, that voted for me, and they asked me to make the right decisions and to, it's not my decision. It's the people that I represent. I have to listen to the people that I represent, and it's overwhelmingly in support of fighting for the library. It's not for, moving forward with this. And I want to see Project Neptune. I think it could be really great. I really want to see it. I have nothing against that. Same as everybody else on council here, but you're not convincing me with this at all to change my mind.
If I may also add, I watched I don't know, it's state hearing, the Department of Environmental Protection. There were representatives from Penn State, Lee Barron College, speaking on these things, and Neptune was really part of that topic very briefly, but what became very, very apparent, quickly apparent, it clear is that Barron does great work in water research and testing and laboratory work. and that they don't have a place on the Bayfront. They go down the good old fashioned way and get samples. They take them back to the lab, like most places in the continental United States. You're hard pressed to find many, these such laboratories based on the water. I think that Gannon needs a place to park its boat. I think that when we first approved, Project Neptune, that, they told us it was going into the Port Authority building. And I think that the next thing we seen, it was the same day that we voted on it. Downstairs, resolution, people shut down and voted on. Which isn't very democratic. So. You know, I thought that Gannon, I had hoped that Gannon would, show a little bit of character and just pull it back. Bishop Persico hasn't indicated that he has any intention of doing it. Dr. Taylor's gone. Mr. Oldhouse and Dr. Ivanenko, they say all they have to do is just shake their head and smile at us. And so we shake our head and smile back. But this isn't getting any quieter. My emails haven't stopped. I don't think any of yours have stopped either. If they have, but the noise is growing from the advocacy efforts, but we're hearing deafening silence from Gannon. And so if that's to repeal this, I definitely would vote to repeal it. I think that hell, Gannon could, they want to do water research for a library, they could do it, hell, they're 6th and 7th and Sass, they got a library right there. Add on to it. That's why, what they don't have is a boat slip.
You guys. Good. All right, moving on to number 7. Approval of the extension of the deadline to register to vote. It's April 9th. You want to talk about it?
Sure, I can speak to that. So I've been in communication, a lot of communication with the Department of State and the governor's office on this. And it's our intention to close the voter registration office and the election office on the date of April 8th. So in doing that, we've taken a lot of things into consideration. First of all, since 2015, the Department of State started doing online voter registration. And we've had a huge decrease in people coming in to register in the office. On that last day, we typically would see about 5 or 10 people coming into the office. So it's not a big volume of people. And also to help accommodate people, we're encouraging people to plan ahead. We'll do a lot of media releases for that. We're asking people to register to vote online, register to vote before April 5th to avoid that congestion. If anyone does come to the courthouse on April 8th for the purposes of registering to vote, there's going to be a sign at the front of the courthouse with directions on how to register. We'll put a QR code there, so anyone who is sophisticated enough to use the QR codes can get onto the website right there and register. Otherwise, we'll have a bin or a box or folder with applications and pens. And we're going to allow people to put those applications into the drop box there in front of the courthouse. Obviously, every year, if people do submit a registration and there's any problem with it, if our office would see that there's anything, any more information or something's not proper on that application, we always reach out to those people that are registering to vote. So this would be no different. We'll still extend that to the public. So anyone that's dropping in any registrations that day, we would assist by follow-up calls if there's any problems. So we also have a court order petition into the judge to approve the extension of the deadline to register to vote to April 9th. So if people had been planning and somehow didn't see like, oh, wow, the eclipse, I can't get down to the courthouse, but I wanted to get down there to do that, we're going to allow people to come down on April 9th and come down and register as they normally would. So if they need any assistance from the office, they can receive it that day. The Department of State said that any court of competent jurisdiction recommending our own court of common pleas to make that available by court order. So we will extend the deadline to April 9th with that agreement. Basically, we want to do everything to safely allow people to come and register to vote.
Is this gonna have companion, I'm sorry, what? Is this gonna have a companion on the, election board?
We'll put this on the election board too.
Okay.
At the time when we were putting it forward here, we weren't sure if there was going to be an election board meeting prior to the council meeting, and we wanted to make sure we could get the media releases and start the planning stages for this. So our offices are going to be closed to the public on April 8th.
Going on that day?
I'm sorry. And in discussion with the Department of State, one of the things mentioned is this is just about registering to vote. So even if people would normally come in even at 4 o'clock on April 8th, if we would have been open, we weren't going to be entering that information into the system on April 8th anyway. So this is just allowing people to register to vote. It's not the election date, and there's not a disadvantage to any political party in doing this. So it's fair to everyone. It's really fair to the people and the safety of public safety and the safety of the employees in the courthouse.
So, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you each have a copy of the petition that I filed with the clerk of the courts, but I have yet to get it to see a judge. So everything that Karen has said is fine, but we need a court order to approve that.
Is there a timing component to this, like?
Yeah, Tuesday, we'll try to do it at the election board, and I'll reach out to Judge Walsh, the president judge, as the election board chair, and see if we can.
Well,
Would you be?
yeah, well, I mean, I intended to do that. I'll see if there's a judge available tomorrow and Monday to assign this, and then it'll be fine. I don't know if Judge Walsh will be around. But any judge that's around should be able to sign this.
So the election board for Tuesday, you know, there needs something.
You can put this on the agenda.
Do recommendation from the election board. Is-
Okay, that was it. That's in the media release as well. So we wrote that when we discussed.
Well, it's only important for us internally to know that we have had a judge approve it. We don't need to, the public doesn't care that the petition was presented and the judge ruled, I think. But if you want to do that, I mean, you have on this agenda the resolution. All you have to do is put that resolution on the Board of Elections agenda as well.
Okay.
And only one day, for recommendation to, I'll do the language, we'll do that, and I'll leave that
Okay.
to.
Thank you.
But yes, it's a go. For as long as I have to go. Okay. He's working on Friday.
Any other concerns about that? Don't come to the
My only
court.
question is making sure you have a meeting releases.
Like, I'd like to get a judge. I'm sorry.
My question was for Karen, and she sort of answered it. In the meantime, I was wondering if you had the media releases.
That's one of the reasons we wanted to try to pull this together, and it's taken a few weeks of dialogue with the state and their legal counsel as well, so that we can make this happening and prepare ahead of time.
But yes, we'll have the election board meeting next Tuesday. This will be on it. And this will also be on the public notice for tomorrow.
Yes.
The resolution to extend the thing.
Yeah.
And Paul, I think I'm missing a blurb at the end.
If all the ordinances in front of you are approved, the county is in compliance with the requirements of 2 months general fund expenditures and unrestricted fund balance. And we're gonna be over by $24,701,000.
So that like certifying that we have that money?
It's not a certification because, Andre,
Is it a
this is an
report?
approximation of where we're at. Remembering that the starting balance is not fully done because we don't have the audit done.
Is it a report?
It's a report, yeah.
because under your responsibilities, under item 6, it states that we're supposed to get a monthly report on all supplement, all on here, I'll read it to you.
Okay,
So I'll have to paraphrase. But it sounds an awful lot like certification to me. It says, each month, the finance director submits to the county executive and council a statement of the revenues and expenditures for the preceding month and for the fiscal year up to and including the preceding month. And the statement shall be sufficiently detailed as to appropriations, allotments, and funds to show the exact, doesn't say estimate, actually says an exact financial condition of the county and of each of its boards, commissioners, departments, and agencies, and that's like a monthly.
well, you do
requirement.
get a monthly
And so,
report.
yeah,
I mean, you get that every month.
I'm going somewhere with that, because that sounds like
Oh.
certified to me. Now, there's some other stuff in there that, I mean, I won't bore you all with the details, but I think I thank Brecken for reprinting these to the nights, actually. But I think it might be some things in there that would enlighten the administration, because here this body approved a couple of things by ordinance. And so I guess we'll stack it right up on all the other legality stuff. But for him to say that he's not going to perform a perfunctory task, or for you to say that even, I don't see how we move this county forward by appropriating anything until we resolve those things. Again, I'm just one vote. And so unless and until those entities that this body has legally, that's kind of what we do. Said that we can make those based on your reports and the budget that we know, and which that we know the money is there. We adopted those ordinances, which in fact became law. Veto, so he had 14 days to veto them if he could, which would have been the 15th of February. After 10 days, it doesn't matter whether he signs it or not. It automatically becomes law. When can those people expect that money?
Can't give you an answer to that.
And you can't give us an answer why. You release the money. Chris, you answer everything else, can you tell us what? Tell us when.
It's gotta be certified by the executive.
And here, let me read this to you. So I like reading, it's fundamental. Item 5, it says that you verify the appropriation, allotment, and availability of funds for all bills, claims, and demands made to the county executive. That there is a sufficient unencumbered balance in the allotment of appropriation, and that sufficient funds, therefore, are available to cover the claim concerned. So in other words, there's money there to do the things that you want to do, and you're telling us, we got enough money to do that. We ain't got enough money to do that. But you just told us we're in excess of $24 million
In the general
in
fund.
the general fund. And so as a budget, anything that hasn't been budgeted for, we shouldn't even be considered. I still maintain we never received a balanced budget. I won't go over the union negotiations, the 1.7, 1.35, I won't go over any of that stuff that wasn't included, that stuff that's going to contribute to that high expected tax increase, millage increase at the end of 24, because it's going to happen. And so unless my colleagues feel differently, and I won't speak for them, I'm going to be no on any new appropriations into the most vulnerable population amongst us. The people who the ARP money was intended for receives that appropriation. And in that way, because, you know, my views are out there, and because as like with the lease, you already know my views, then feel free to leave me out of all the other right to know requests too. You know, I guess that was the reason, and we already knew his views, we didn't have to send him the information, so which is. But okay, I'm a no.
Well, I apologize. What was the fund balance total?
The total,
Well, yeah, 47.
47.
47.
And that's a calculation based on the last audit minus what we had appropriated out of fund balance for last year plus this year. Making the assumption that all revenues are gonna equal expenditures.
When can we get an exact as required by number
Well,
five?
to answer that, any one that's read that statement, the first 6 months of the last 40 years has not given you an exact. Because we're basing it on the last audit. Well, up to there.
This
So-
this don't say anyone 40 years,
Well,
this says that you're supposed
oh,
to.
then
give
I'm
us an
lying.
exact-
Okay, good.
Well, no,
There
you're
you go.
not,
Then-
you're not following the rules.
Well, you know
You're
what?
not
Nobody
doing.
else has followed the rules.
Oh, so that's a great answer.
No, that's
So let's
not a
not
great
all
answer.
just follow the
Wait,
rules.
wait,
Nobody
Andre,
follow
you
the
wanna
rules.
listen or
One second.
not?
Guys,
1 second.
Yeah, no, I think,
Now, wait a minute. So every month, the finance department emails,
they do that, but he didn't wanna hear
emails
that.
financial reports to you and your team. That details all expenses. That's the point Paul was trying to make originally.
the reports.
You get that information,
I know
Andre.
which one.
I don't think you comply with this. I don't believe that the numbers, it's hard for us to believe any of the numbers. Since we've been trying to get an exact appropriate, approximate on budget stuff since October. And it's always, I don't know, it's an assumption, it's almost sure. Now it's like he sends you the exact thing. So would that be a certification? Are you certifying that those numbers are exact?
Once the audit is completed, then this number will be a little more close to accurate, but remembering all the revenues do not equal expenditures each year.
It should be
So-
monthly.
Well,
Each
Okay.
month, submit to the county executive and council
Maybe we
statement
can.
of the
continue this
revenues and
conversation.
Yeah,
expenditures
some
for
other
the
time.
preceding month and for the fiscal year up to and including the preceding month. And the statement shall be sufficiently detailed as to appropriations, allotments, and funds to show the exact financial condition of the county and of each of its boards, commissions, departments. And so I'm just asking, I guess, if we're asking that for everybody else, boards, commissions, and authorities, then we ought to ask that of ourselves. And we shouldn't be asking people to uphold a standard that we won't uphold.
well, you
Whether
are,
it's right to know,
You don't-
whether it's our right for, whether it's a request for the right to know from the administration that they snowball us on. Or whether it's a, don't tell Terry and Andre, let's just cut the deal back here. It's kind of hard to take you on your word, like good faith. It's just kind of hard after 2 years.
Rock, as the finance chairman, you're given a balance sheet and an income statement for every department, every fund each month. This statement that I'm reading, that's been read for years and years and years, is not able to be exact because we're basing it on revenues,
understand.
expenditures that may or may not happen, an audit that's not completed yet. I mean,
So does that mean the approximate amount that you're giving us, if it's enough to cover what we're asking for, that we should assume we can have it? Like, it almost sounds as like you're saying it's not exact, but it's enough to cover what we asked for, and it has been past that time frame.
What he's certifying is the fund balance and not the balance for ARP dollars.
correct. One's general fund. This is general fund we've always read.
So we can't get what the home rule charter is asking us for? Is that what you're saying?
You are getting what the home rule charter is asking you for.
Okay, so if we're getting that, then that means you're certifying the funds?
No, those are two different things.
No,
But it
they-
sounds very much in the home rule charter like it's not two different things.
Chris, I'll send you what he sends on a monthly basis or the administration sends on a monthly basis.
Okay, so the question would be, again, how much money do we have in ARP money? Because I've heard 10 different answers since October.
I suppose, I would suggest that we refine what we're angry about. And I think that the majority on council would like to see the release of the two ARP grants, ECCM and DEI. And, you know, we've only got one lever to pull. Right, when we have a disagreement, I got one lever to pull. And it's not something that I really enjoy. I don't want to be obstructionist in any way, but like, I don't know. I think Doug mentioned something about if we not come to you, maybe we need to. Maybe you and I should sit down and have some more conversations, but I mean, this council would very much like to see some work done to build consensus and compromise between two sides. They're obviously in two different places. I just had this conversation with Breton on Monday. Because in a divided government, we gotta figure out a way to work together. And build that consensus.
I'd like to see an accurate account of our financials. And I'm not sure we're getting that, just based on my experience with the budget. Now, you can agree or disagree, you can say I'm being petty or whatever, but I don't think so. When we close a budgetary contract, then we come right back and we get hit with a 1 point. So in excess of 1 million thing dropped on us in the first doggone week in January. And then in addition to that, you got another 1 point something. That wasn't, I don't think that it adequately reflected the financial, the dire financial forecast of this county. And so I saw what happened last year. It's like, hey, we gave them the budget, that's county council, they do it. They appropriated. I've seen that game played several years, not just with this administration. And so I like the more accurate financial forecast.
In the interest of time, can we proceed to Jim? My name is called close, go ahead.
All right.
Take it away.
I'd like to call the personnel meeting to order. First on the agenda, ordinance number 13/2024. 2024 appointed official salary ordinance, director of administration. We did have a first read 13/24, got tabled at our last meeting. Well, I'm gonna move forward with it today. If you have any comments on that.
This is my letter.
Yes, my question would be to Paul. Since the money is already in the budget for that position,
Correct,
actually at a higher amount.
yes.
It's not that the new director will not be paid, but it's actually gonna cost us more, or we would pay him at the lower rate. I can't hold,
Any appointed position requires approval for their pay. It doesn't go back to whoever it was getting paid before.
well,
This is the approval of an appointed position's wages.
well,
And I would also say, this is not until April. We have
Correct.
quite a bit of time here. So it doesn't, not to suggest that Joe is not going to get paid.
but I'm just saying, it's already budgeted money. It's not like we're looking for a position, a new position, or a higher pay in the position, is all I was bringing up.
Yeah, it's actually just slightly less. The issue is not with the pay, certainly not with the individual. This is,
So once again, we'll
For the, yes, Jim, there's money in the budget for that.
Any other comments on one? Number two, ordinance number 16/2024, approving the salary change for director of Erie County Library. We had the first read on 2/27/24. I know we had some discussion on that. Discussion today. I know we're talking about how we wanted to advertise it, or what amount to advertise it on, but yeah, Mr. Giuliano here.
If I may, my name's John Giuliano, I'm the acting director of the library. I just wanted to mention a few statistics in comparison with our peer libraries in the state. Erie County Public Library is sixth in service area population, sixth in staffing, fifth in total operating expenditures, but 105th in the state for director salary. I think when you look at, there have been several directors in the past several years, and I think making the salary more in line with what directors across the state are making would allow us to attract more qualified candidates and hopefully allow for more stability in the leadership position of the library. I'll mention this aside, I'm not a candidate, I'm not applying for this position, this is not a self-serving comment.
Thank you. Council. I'm sorry, listen, I'm not against it. I just, in general, I'm really concerned about, escalations throughout the budget. Not necessarily this position, but just as a whole. There's not been, I think, a single meeting that we've had that wasn't increasing the cost beyond what we were already budgeted for the year. And it's just a really concerning trend. October, we're gonna be pulling our hair out, trying to save a dime. And that's my only concern here. You know, if you can save county taxpayers even just a bit of that by finding a well-qualified candidate in that range or the lower end of that range, you know. I think austerity should be a word that we hear here very often.
Thanks.
Which I'm not, that's not my normal nature, I can say that. I just genuinely concerned about rising costs, so that's all I got.
Number 3, possible appointment of Ronald Boyle to the Erie County Planning Commission, term to expire December 31st, 2025. By Ms. Showerman. Mr. Boyle will be filling the unexpired term of James Hardman.
Tried to make your cousin, Charlie.
Yeah.
No relation.
Possible appointment of Gary Nachinsky, see, I got that name, to the Erie County Human Relations Commission Advisory Board, term to expire December 31st, 2024. By Ms. Showerman. Mr. Nachinsky will be filling the unexpired term of Diana Ames.
And both of these, you'll see it's not the regular terms because both of them are filling out terms of other people that retired.
Number 5, possible appointment of Mary Rennie to the Erie County Library Advisory Board, term to expire December 31st, 2026. Mr. Copeland. Mrs. Rennie will replace Mary Ann Tempestini, whose term expired.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this appointment is an appointment of the county executive to be confirmed by county council. The county executive does not approve this individual filling the seat. Obviously, Mrs. Rennie does have library background, but she is embroiled, as we all know, in a very big controversy, and we don't feel that it would serve the library advisory board to have someone who's chosen to jump into the fray, so to speak, in that role.
I don't usually like a lot of the political, how do you say it? Standards, the practices, the history, like, you know, there's a long history and precedence of deference to one another. And I'm gonna say there have been at least 2 of the county executive suggestions given to us for advice and consent that I have internally in my heart vigorously disapproved of. And I just really didn't consider it a good practice to go about blocking one another's, suggested appointments. There is a history of working with the council person from said district to put forward a name. And this is partisanship. You really think there's a single person I would put on that library advisory board that Davis wouldn't object to?
I do. And we ask you to bring forward someone else.
There's no better person I could ever imagine to advise the library director than a former library director. And, you know, it's interesting too, is, you know, in a board, it is representation, right? Other people have appointments to the same advisory board, and I would hope to some extent that they reflect your point of view. And I just, and again, and also, like I vigorously stated to the executive on Monday, you know, there was actually one that a name I brought forward for planning that he took great issue with. I listened to him. I was like, you know, probably not a fight worth picking. I put somebody on there that I think he's probably very, pleased with, someone that's pretty bipartisan and not politically charged, and probably pretty favorable to the executive for that person to be there. Again, this is this whole idea about just complete unwillingness to compromise and build, you know. I guess if they want to block me, then, oh, look at that, number 6 is an executive appointment. I mean, honestly. Charlie, you and I are from totally different backgrounds. You know, there's good amount of things that we do agree on, but just politically, we're different. And I got a feeling that most of the people that you would appoint are also politically different than me. I'm not trying to block these people. I'm not trying to, they just don't like her.
I think you said it accurately, though. You said about bipartisanship, and I think that that's extremely partisan. I don't think that, like, granted, she has a ton of experience. She does, but I don't think that she can see both sides. I think she's so far to one side that there's no seeing the other side.
I think honestly, she is steadfastly an advocate for the library. And like, listen, Mary and I don't even agree on all things either. But I know that what she really cares about and what she loves, and what she holds dear is the library. And I mean, literally, if you had a former director of the library in your district, wouldn't that be like?
If I thought it was going to enhance the board, and in this case, I think that the issue at hand, I think it keeps it from enhancing the board. That's just my personal opinion, and
Mr. Chair.
Yes, or no, that's yours, sorry. It's your meeting.
Bob? I hear what everyone's saying. I appoint people to the board. I just want them to know, I just need to know that they're competent, that they love the county, that they're gonna go there and do a good job. What I don't expect them to do is go there and assimilate. I expect them to go there and bring their experience in present things as seen or viewed through their prism. In the same way that the white community or Black community, we're not monolithic people. I mean, what good is a board if everybody's not bringing different opinions? And they're not always popular. In my experience, what it is, I like working in, like this don't bother me. I've seen it really, so this don't bother me. I like working in tension. I thrive, actually, in these moments. Because I like hearing other people's opposing views. get this, I'm kind of weird. I like hearing the people who don't agree with me. Probably why, when they say politics make strange bedfellows, probably why I get fan mail from South County, from Republicans. Doug knows this stuff, but because good government is good government. And it's an advisory board.
That's the other
It's
thing too.
it's
This
an
isn't
advisory board. And so I've had my appointments, asked to take them off. I've had them politicked off. I've had them, even prior to this board, I've had them under, when it was 5 Democrats. I had people say, oh, no, you can't. You know,
I've literally had state rep.
I've had people come
call
in
me.
and say that they can't find anybody to serve in their district. And we all represent 40,000 people or so. I try, me personally, rarely, I don't think I ever have. Maybe once, but rarely will I go outside of my district. I think it's an affront to the people in my district to say that I can't find someone qualified to work on one of those boards, authorities, or commissions. And it's difficult for me because the zip codes that I represent. And talent is hard to, the literacy gap. And so when you get someone like, I don't care if she's for it, I don't care if she against it. It's already some people down there for it. So why wouldn't we put somebody on there that gives another perspective? And I'm excited about supporting your she was good enough for me to serve with her. Next to me, be my colleague, and I know how competent and capable she is, and her and I didn't get along all the time. But I respected her acting. So I'm pleased to tell you I support you.
Mr. Chair. This is a road I never want to go down. I support anybody that my colleagues bring forward, the county executive brings forward, because we can't get into this game of holding up appointments because we don't like our philosophy, our politics, whatever, because we'll never get anybody to serve on these boards. And I think Ellen can attest to that, because our last pick was a joint pick, and I had a difference of opinion, and we worked it out, and I'm glad we did, and the gentleman has stayed on for a second term. I don't think Mary would do anything to hurt the life. She'd rather kill one of us before she would hurt the life.
I hope that's not factual.
I want her. And I would support her wholeheartedly. My picks are, when I pick somebody, I tell them, and I think I said this at the gaming meeting, don't come to me to ask how you should vote, because if you have to come to me, you don't belong on that board. That's your decision, and my pick on the gaming board voted no that day, so I picked a person, you're there, you do what you think's right, you don't have to come back to me to okay it, and I don't have a problem with Mary due to the fact, she will never do anything to hurt that library. And the same thing, unless somebody brings forward Charlie Manson or something like that, then we're gonna have a disagreement, but no matter who goes forward, and I don't think I've never said no to somebody's pick at all. I have one no for me, but that's the difference. Yeah,
You should go there.
no, don't.
I'll just add one thing, and Andre mentioned that when the council had a little different makeup, but it was Mary and Andre that said we should never pick somebody to make an appointment when someone is very politically outspoken or very politically biased. And that is from them, from both of them.
What's interesting about
But
that,
I know. She
is
has a
that
lot of passion for the library.
Mary, or at least in my conversations with her, actually kind of considers herself somewhat apolitical in terms of this. She's like, Democrats sometimes right, sometimes Republicans right. She definitely identifies more on the Democratic side, but she's got a nuanced perspective in terms of the politics. And I really think what you see is, I'm not even sure how many years, 40-year history of, working in the library. I mean, my gosh, a librarian is controversial nowadays. That's why we gotta increase the salary for the, library director. Because it's a position people are scared of and they're gonna need some reimbursement to go into it. Anyways,
And if you watch Jeopardy, they're the smartest ones on there. Just tell them. I don't got it.
Number 6, possible appointment of Robin L. Dowling to the Erie County MHID Board. Term to expire December 31st, 2026. Brought forward by the county executive. Ms. Dowling will be filling a vacant seat. Motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Are we doing it?
Actually, I believe that we need to go into an executive session.
About that, are we gonna do that, Tom? About it?
Yeah, I mean, there's at least 3 issues. that we can go on.
Okay.
Personnel. Personnel matters.